Hello and welcome to Module 3. This is using cyber threat intelligence and forming a hypothesis based on it. What is CTI? CTI, or cyber threat intelligence, is intelligence that is gathered on adversaries, typically APT groups. We've been in depth into what APT groups exactly are. As an industry standard, we use the MITRE attack framework and matrices to gather intelligence on APT groups, including their TTPs. You can use this to formulate your hypothesis for your threat hunting. You can also use Microsoft Threat Reports for an up-to-date threat intelligence on the latest and common threats and vulnerabilities that are taking place in the wild. So, you can use MITRE attack to study the APT groups targeting the specific type of enterprise that you're defending, i.e. health, finance. And it's all at attack.mitre.org.groups. Here we have MITRE attack, so it's just attack.mitre.org. If you just go in your search engine and you just Google MITRE attack, you'll come to MITRE attack, get into the MITRE attack webpage. And as we've seen before, you have three different matrices. So we have the enterprise matrix, which represents a cyber kill chain, so tactics, techniques, and procedures, or sub-techniques. We've got the mobile matrix, which represents the attack chain or the kill chain for mobile devices. And we also have industrial control systems, which is becoming more important, as we've mentioned, with the fourth industrial revolution that's taking place and the integration of information technology and operational technology in industry. Industrial control systems is very important. Famously, let's not forget Stuxnet, 60 days, targeted a programmable logic controller. Also recently, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps targeted Israeli-made PLCs, or programmable logic controllers, that were distributed the world over. South Africa was a country that was attacked. And essentially, it was a very easy attack that they pulled off, because the engineers that placed or deployed these programmable logic controllers kept the default credentials for admin, basically, and all the attackers had to do, they didn't even have to do anything advanced. They just had to research the PLC, and they researched what the default credentials were, and they were able to log right in, and therefore have an effect on, they can move laterally then between the IT infrastructure and the OT infrastructure. If we come to the top, we've got tactics, we've got the matrices, we've got tactics, we've got techniques, we've got defenses. There's a whole bunch of resources. Here, importantly, is CTI, cyber threat intelligence. So what do we want to know about cyber threat intelligence? We want to know about what the groups are. So if you're working in finance, it makes sense to understand APT groups targeting finance, for example, and then you can go ahead and perform your threat hunting operations based on looking for indicators of compromise for common tactics, techniques, and procedures that they may be using. So groups here are listed in alphabetical order. They all have an ID. They have a name. They go in depth to explain that groups are actively clusters that are tracked. It's basically APT groups are all tracked by MITRE attack. So here we have the name. So a lot of these APT groups are given names by people, by the security world. And a lot of the time they can't precisely be identified. A lot of the time there is suspicion, like a lot of them are maybe known but not confirmed to be working for, say, for example, Russian GRU or United States NSA or something like that. Also, Chinese are quite active, and North Korea. So let's just take, for example, Admin 338 here. Admin 338 is a China-based cyber threat group. It has previously used newsworthy events as lures to deliver malware, and has primarily targeted organizations involved in finance, economic, and trade policy, typically using publicly available rats such as poison ivy, as well as some non-public backdoors. So you should familiarize yourself with all the APT groups, or the APT groups that are typically targeting your own organization. What can't be underestimated is the value of just a good Google search. And what you can do is you can just, for example, APT groups targeting finance, financial sector, and you'll get good CTI based on that. So let's come back to the MITRE attack. Let's take the CTI. Let's take a look at the groups. Let's take a look at the software. Software that is included. This is the software that's been used by APT groups, and here's a whole bunch of they're all listed on the left-hand side here, and they're in alphabetical order here. So, for example, Azure, this is interesting. Azure is an ALF. This is targeting Linux. So AcidRain is an alpha, or binary targeting modems and routers using MIPS architecture. So you see how specific the APT groups can get. We highly recommend Amara's textbook, which is Mastering Malware Analysis, which goes into different instruction set architectures and different CPU architectures. And you really will get a good understanding of instruction sets and also basically stack heap and everything to do with the CPU. So basically, CPUs are more memory intensive with the stack and the heap and the registers, and GPUs are more arithmetic and logic unit oriented, and hence they can handle more advanced supercomputing processes better than a traditional CPU can. So, for example, here it goes into AcidRain is associated with the Viasat or KSAT communication outage that took place during the initial phases of the 2022 full-scale invasion of Ukraine. We can see that this is quite updated. So, if you're defending Ukrainian infrastructure, you would really want to take a look at AcidRain. Analysis indicates overlap with another network device targeting malware VPN filter associated with Sandworm team, US and European government sources, linked to AcidRain, Russian government entities, etc., etc. Let's drill down on AcidRain. We drill down on AcidRain. There's an enterprise, there's an ID for the tactic, and it's data destruction, disk wipe, file and directory discovery, system shutdown, reboot. And you can go ahead and you can do some more research on its specific indicators of compromise. You can take a look at Yarrow rules as well for these, and you can work it into your threat hunting process. And that's it for MitraTac. With regard to Microsoft Cyber Threat Intelligence, the best thing that you can do is you can go ahead and you can subscribe to the Threat Analytics report from Microsoft 365 Defender. So if I take a look at the report, here's a CVE, it's a vulnerability, it's a brand new CVE 2024-49039, and it's a Windows Task Scheduler. So you can view the report. Once you have viewed the Cyber Threat Intelligence report to the threat report, you'll be redirected to the Microsoft Defender portal. Inside the portal, we have a rich look at exactly what's going on. And bear in mind that Microsoft analyzes about 3.6 trillion signals a day. So this is really comes from a large data set, and this is really good cyber threat intelligence to utilize. So for example, let's take a look at this threat report. This is a vulnerability regarded to a recent common vulnerability and exposure, also brought to us by the MITRE Corporation. And this is where Active Directory certificate services are being abused. When we open it up, it opens up in the Defender portal. We have a lovely overview. We can see if already by automation, if any impacted assets or incidents are active inside our organization. Then importantly, we come to the Analyst report. Inside the Analyst report, we're going to get possible queries in KQL or Kusto query language that we can go ahead and we can use for our threat hunting operations. So we have a nice executive summary, impacted technologies. You can go through this, and there's the CVE. There's what needs to be done. There's a change lot, etc., etc. Let's try find something with a KQL query that we can actually go hunting for it. So this is WhatsApp Gold. Take a look at that one. We'll take a look at some other Defender reports. This is also CVE. This was for Windows Mark the Web security feature bypass vulnerability. As you can see, it's all up to date, latest, greatest, new stuff that's happening in the world. And when you open it up, it's going to open up in the Defender portal. So here we've got a couple. I'm taking a look here. The overview of this threat report. This is the misuse of electronic discovery, e-discovery. Here, if I come to the Analyst report, and if I come to the Analyst report and I scroll down, I can see that we've been included. Here's a KQL query for hunting. So I can just do that. I can copy that. I can go into hunting, into advanced hunting, and I can create a new query, and I can begin hunting within my organization for that CVE. You can do this as a daily exercise. You can be using the latest, greatest, up-to-date threat intelligence to be actually hunting for these incidents as they take place in your organization. You can also just go ahead and click the run query, and it's going to basically open it up in advanced hunting, and it's going to run the query. You may have to do a little bit of debugging here. So we've copied and pasted that query, and we can go ahead and we can run the query, and we can begin advanced hunting. So no results were found in that specific time period. Here's taking a look at another analyst report. Remember that we're always looking for indicators of compromise. So you can go ahead and perform threat hunting for this specific, this is tool profile FUD mobile rootkit. You can go ahead and there are indicators of compromise. You can work this into analytics rules, and you can basically automate the detection of these. And you can actually go and hunt for these indicators of compromise in your environment in advanced hunting and also in Microsoft Sentinel. We just run through the other tabs here with any one of these threat reports. We have our related incidents. If there's any other incidents in the organization, we have impacted assets, we have endpoints exposure, and we have recommended assets. I'm going to now use a recommended actions rather. I'm going to use a example that I've actually used. So if I come to hunting, I come to advanced hunting. One of the things that I would like to check for is I'd like to check for ALSAS dumping. I did perform ALSAS dumping on a machine. So let's go ahead and let's get the query for that and put it inside here. I can just click on this ellipsis, just add query and editor, new query. I have the query. I can just go ahead and paste it in here. So it's looking at the device process events table, and it's saying where action type equals process accessed and where target process file name is alsas.exe. We can see there's a little bit of debugging that we have to do here, and we'll fix that in a moment. If you're debugging this type of thing in here, we see that when we hover over it, it says the name target process file name does not refer to any known column, table, variable, or function. What we can do is we can take a look at the table, which is device process events. So I can just come down to device process events. I can expand upon that, and I can look what the actual similarity is. So it says here where target process file name is alsas.exe. So here this would just be file name. So we can say where file name is alsas.exe because it's the same as target process. So this is part of my debugging. I can just put file name, and we can see that that little bit of debugging has done that. And we can look at target process file name. So there's a whole bunch of, so there's process ID, account logon ID, initiating process, initiating logon ID, etc., etc. Initiating process file name. So this would actually be the file name. File name would be here, and this would be initiating process file name. So here, initiating process file name. Initiating process file name would be there. And this target process file name, so this would actually be actual file name. We can go ahead and do that. And then target process ID, we can just look where it says where it's looking for process ID. So initiating process ID, that's not what we want. We want the target process ID. So we can just take ahead and we can go and look for it. We can see if we find it. Initiating process ID. Well, we can work with the initiating process ID. So we can say here initiating process ID. So it's just debugging. So what you're doing is you're actually looking for the columns. Sometimes the recommendations, you won't have exactly those columns, and you have to look for it. So we can go for initiating process ID. And this is going to help you in a long way. Initiating process ID. Initiating process ID. Initiating process ID. See that we've got initiating process ID. We can go ahead and we can run the screen. We can search for ALSAS dumping. This is in the last 24 hours. I'd actually like to put this for the last 7 days. The query is running. And no results are found. So, but here we've done ALSAS credential dumping. And this is basically another the query in a different language. And what we can do here is I can run this query. And we can see that we've got a lot of results. We can see if we drill down that it actually did happen, I used procdump, and I used procdump to dump alsas, and it even gives us the initiating process command line, etc. Procdump ma alsas.exe. My recommendation to you is to use these environments together. So here I'm utilizing Microsoft Defender, but I'm also utilizing Microsoft Sentinel, and I'm utilizing the different tables. There's tables inside Sentinel that aren't in Advanced Hunting and Defender. Obviously, Microsoft Sentinel is our cloud native solution. It's more than that. It goes into incidents, and there's a lot. We can see that not in the last 24 hours, but if we take the last 7 days, there has been incidents. A Hyatt, the credential access incident. But we're basically utilizing both these tools, so Advanced Hunting and Microsoft Sentinel. So this is the unified environment. This is how it's supposed to work. And this is how you can utilize both these environments for threat hunting. Now, your cyber threat intelligence should come from good sources. So since we're using Microsoft, if you're already working in the environment, you should definitely subscribe to the threat reports, and you should let these threat reports guide your week. It's what's happening in the world. And we cannot forget MITRE ATT&CK. MITRE ATT&CK is very important, and it's very important in, you'll see in the job descriptions for threat hunting, they do need you to have a full understanding of MITRE ATT&CK and how the CTI from MITRE ATT&CK can be utilized. You can even look at specific campaigns under CTI, and we can see that there's a whole bunch of campaigns. So here's 2022 Ukraine electric power attack, and it goes into it, and there's an actual attack, APT41 dust, that happened, and who it was conducted by, etc., etc. MITRE ATT&CK is your place for CTI, so it's open source and it's freely available for everyone. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson on utilizing cyber threat intelligence to perform a hypothesis. Remember that any action is intelligence driven. We have to have the best intelligence to focus and to target on threats that we are facing with your specific organization. So it's extremely important to understand your organization, what your organization does, and then you can go ahead and proactively use cyber threat intelligence to perform a correct hypothesis, where you can go ahead and perform your threat hunting inside Sentinel and also inside Advanced Hunting in Microsoft Defender. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this Module 3. I look forward to seeing you on Module 4, where we'll be getting into some more KQL queries for hunting. Bye for now.